In the unprecedented book, Two-Faced Racism, Whites in the Backstage and Frontstage, sociologists Leslie Houts Picca of the University of Dayton and Joe R. Feagin of Texas A&M University reveal, scrutinize, explicate, and contrast enunciated racist attitudes and attributed behaviors exhibited by American whites in backstage, in other words, all white, versus front stage, in other words, not all white settings. The scholars constructed their no holds barred compendium by drawing on accounts of behaviors recorded in some 626 diaries of white college students at 28 colleges and universities across the United States in the 2003 to 2007 time frame. Indeed, Picca and Feagin proffer a formalized airing of white America's dirty laundry via white students themselves. The data contained in Two-Faced Racism may confirm what many non-whites in America sometimes sense and believe about racism, that it is relentless and regenerative, with no palpable denouement in sight, ceteris paribus. To wit, the authors share a diary entry by Abby, a student at a southern university, as she watched TV with 4 girlfriends. Quote, 5 of us, all white, were at the apartment when one of the guys came over. On TV was Arissa, one of the black cast members of Real World. The guy says, "That was a good shit I just took. Looking at her reminded me of that because she's black and my shit is black. She's a piece of shit." The guy has a fetish for girls of other races and always talks about wanting to have sex with them, unquote. Authors Picca and Feagin tell us the white man is referencing an old white racist notion that blacks are deserving of white subjugation because of alleged subhuman qualities. Such extremely racist comments would probably not be made in the company of black people. Whites are accustomed to men like this making outrageous racist assertions, and that they often act as cheerleaders in concert with other whites' acquiescence in such racist performances is essential to their perpetuation over time and across the society. Similarly, telling racist jokes frequently and by insisting they are only jokes, whites promote their acceptability, persistence, and harmful impact on an already racist society. In spite of equating black women with human waste, he reportedly has a desire to be with them sexually. Fetish is defined as an object of irrational reverence. The apparent contradiction of a white man desiring a sexual object that is also racially devalued is common in U.S. history and can be seen in old images constructed by white men of black women as tantalizing jungle bunnies. Yet, black women have been blamed for white men's sexual attraction to them, unquote. Whites and non-whites alike, who are in denial about the embedded American cultural phenomenon, which now spans some 12 generations and counting for many whites, may be nonplussed by the book's graphic recounting of apparently normative behavior that may recall actions and experiences of friends and family, not to mention themselves. Alas, a white scholar at Johns Hopkins University who requested anonymity opined, "This book is not news to whites because it's about us." Two-Faced Racism's raison d'etre is more about confirming the anxiety blacks and other minorities have about the way they are regarded and treated in America. The abuse is ongoing, day in and day out. I hear it all the time. But juxtaposed to the race incident narratives are often astounding rationales, seemingly reflexively propounded by the diarists and subjects as excuses, if not full fledged defenses, for sociopathological behavior. For instance, in a discussion about the fluid social boundaries and slippery social regions, we are presented with a story about a white female who believed she was dating an Italian man until it was too late. Quote, during our conversation, my female friend told me that she found out that the guy she had been dating was Indian. She said that she really felt bad when she found out because on one of their earlier dates, she had referred to people as sand monkeys and towel heads. She obviously felt embarrassed for talking about people in front of him like that, but only after she had found out his ethnicity. She had originally thought he was Italian, and then it was okay to talk about others like that. Picca and Feagin observe this woman apparently did not have a problem with her racist presentations that referred to people in Asian or Middle Eastern areas as sand monkeys and towel heads when she thought her date was white. The backstage is considered a safe space for openly racist actions until it becomes evident that someone is listening. In a more dramatic account, Kelsey, a student in the Midwest, describes a conversation at her home over family dinner. A white male friend visited and now saw the listing for BET and said, we couldn't have WET because that just wouldn't be politically correct. They think we owe them for what happened years ago. I never had a damn slave. I don't owe them shit, he continued. There's a difference between a black and a nigger. I have some black friends and they're cool, but I don't like damn niggers. We were all laughing at this point. The authors comment. They actively laugh along with the perpetrators' unoriginal and stereotyping ravings, linked to the common white racist framing of society that generally incorporates counters to black challenges to white domination, such as his rejection of black slavery as being relevant to the present day. In all regions of the U.S., whites frequently assert that they or their ancestors never enslaved African Americans, or announce incorrectly, in fact, that slavery happened hundreds of years ago. Picca and Feagin usher the reader through many such meticulous dissections of full-blooded American-style anti-black racism via scores of backstage and frontstage illustrations. What is more, their comprehensive narrative considers the dilemmas confronting Latinos, Native Americans, Asians, sometimes counted as white because they are acceptable, people of multiple racial heritage. One male was told by his white girlfriend that squirrels in the Bronx are called squiggers, only for him to inform her that his father is black. And various religious backgrounds, a Jewish male asking for anti-black jokes in hope of being viewed by other white males as fully white in these settings. The ironic imputation is stark. Contrary to what many whites may believe, all 21st century Americans are adversely affected by racism, as to hinder anyone's potential contribution to society and to the world is intrinsically self-defeating. As the student diarists become adept, they begin to discern nuanced behaviors in the society at large, such as law enforcement's driving while black syndrome, their tendency to grant whites preferential protective treatment in predominantly black communities, the hostile manner in which black Americans are handled at international border crossings, not to mention the startling differences in the way white policemen treat black students and non students alike versus white students. Picca and Feagin discuss, quote, numerous researchers have shown how commonplace this criminality image is in contemporary white thinking about black Americans and are important in the white framing of U.S. society. Social science studies show that white officers often hold negatively stereotyped views of black Americans, which can shape their actions in regard to black Americans generally, and even to their own black colleagues in policing, whom they view as unqualified or corrupt. To thick-skulled skeptics who doggedly ascribe these behaviors solely to social deviance, the authors conclude, judging from other research, these racist performances seem to be commonplace, with historical accounts revealing that they have been common since shortly after the early European colonization, judging from the thousands of racial performances cited in the hundreds of white student diaries. We can reasonably speculate that they occur millions of times annually. Whites of all class, ethnic, and gender backgrounds participate in these performances, clearly announcing an end to racism in the United States, as some conservative media and scholarly analysts are wont to do, is inaccurate. Let's look at some real examples of embedded racism's long-term consequences. The heretofore described racist actions and attitudes of white students can and do morph into looming Byzantine forms with long half-lives after they finish college and enter the professional arena, where systematic discrimination against non-whites enables whites to wield what is often disproportionate influence. Consider three ongoing quagmires. A white woman who does not wish to be identified recalls with disgust and dismay some 20 years after an incident at an Ivy League university where she garnered her PhD. Her department head boisterously remarking to a group of giddy white graduate students and junior faculty at a department tea that a student from Africa has matriculated here for graduate work. We admitted him because he's going back to Africa after he's done, so he won't be competing with any of you for a job. Do you think when he arrives in September he'll emerge from his flight bearing a loincloth, sporting face paint, and wielding a poison-laden spear? She remembered thinking, amidst raucous laughter, that foreign-born whites and Asians are regularly admitted absent any going back home stipulation, many even being strongly encouraged to stay in America. When the African student finally appeared, she observed the duplicitous, sickeningly charming behavior of the department chair towards him at the first all-department function, only to be supervened by an astonishingly puerile acting out, such as the chilling silent treatment foisted upon him by some senior faculty, including one for which he was a teaching assistant, that drove him to leave the program after a few semesters. This case recalls the author's assertions about racist performances coming to pass millions of times annually in the USA, not to mention that the racist drama, no doubt frequently occurring in backstage settings there, imposed upon impressionable graduate students and tenure track focused junior faculty, only serves to reinforce sociopathologies they likely already retain. A university administrator who asked to remain anonymous for this article told of a particularly alarming situation that has evolved over several years. Shortly before completing a PhD at a world class university in New England, a white male proclaimed to an inadvertently all white faculty and student gathering that white males who rape black women should not be prosecuted because they are only fulfilling what is every black woman's highest fantasy. This highly tutored graduate student, who was awarded a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship, was chided by his mentor with, "You really shouldn't express such views publicly." Thus, as with the case of the woman who unwittingly talked about sand monkeys and towel heads to her South Asian boyfriend, the content of his statement was not assailed by his mentor. He was simply encouraged to be more discreet about vocalizing it. Then, as he neared completion of the PhD, his faculty advisors earnestly recommended him for the most coveted faculty posts in the country, despite full knowledge of his reprehensible views. Years later, he was unceremoniously booted out of a top department after an unanticipated dismal performance on all fronts, only for his former mentors to call in favors to land him a job at yet another top 10 department, where he managed to become a full professor. Just last year, the astonished administrator wondered out loud to a scientist who'd completed his graduate work alongside the man in question how someone so clearly disturbed could enjoy so much success, only to be rebuffed with, "Well, he's done some important work on a particular problem, and besides, while his feelings about rape may not be kosher, they shouldn't interfere with anything he wants to do because it's not field related. He's really a good guy." Here, while another white male senior scientist casually grants that our subject's position on rape may not be on point, he nevertheless gives him a net positive character rating. In an instance recalling the real world example near the beginning of this article, not only is misogyny recklessly promulgated by all parties involved, but the dehumanized paradigm of black females, clearly fixed in this man's mind, leads him to objectify them as rapeable. One can only wonder whether he may have raped, only to have concocted a grotesque rationale to assuage his soul's residual. More relevantly, however, how have black female employees, colleagues, and students in proximity to him fared? In another dispiriting instance, a white woman who worked as an administrator at a top tier institution recently encountered a former colleague after not having seen each other for years. As they reminisced about their time in New England, he was startled by her sudden, unprovoked, and almost gleeful admission about her reference frame's transmogrification while at the university. Quote, "I attended a first-class liberal arts college where it was drummed into our noggins how deleterious racism was. But then when I moved to Massachusetts with my husband so that he took his PhD at MIT, I got a job in undergraduate academic affairs. Our section dean used to enact the most racist mimicry I ever saw. It was shocking, hilarious. He did Uncle Ben, Aunt Jemima, and Buckwheat, the whole lot of them, always checking to make sure there weren't any minorities around, of course. He usually treated black students like shit when they came to the office and bad-mouthed black faculty and staff ad nauseum. After spending years in that environment, I got real comfortable being and acting racist. It just doesn't bother me anymore. In what may be the mind boggling detail of this story, the gentleman to whom she confided is black. This sobering book clearly illuminates some of the effects of what is robust modern day American racism. Perhaps most salient among them are 1. That such behavior is continuously rationalized away as not really racist, only reinforces racist pathology in everyone who bears witness to such comments and actions, no matter if they are racist or not. 2. Racism is violence, as violent as teens bashing each other's heads in with railroad ties or machine gunning one another down. It is oftentimes physically violent and always psychologically pernicious. 3. White privilege seems normal to most whites because generations of them over many centuries have inherited a great array of resources. As a slaveholder's descendants noted to Picca and Feagin, if we did not inherit money or land, we received a great fund of cultural capital, including prestige, a chance at an education, self esteem, a sense of place, mobility, even in some cases a flair for giving orders. 4. Racist incidents are aspectual parts of a white created system of racial oppression several centuries old and reflecting major dimensions of the overarching racist system that are so germane to its persistence and pervasiveness over much time and space. Sadly, the authors were able to discern what may be the colossal barrier to racism's attenuation. Those whites who are genuine anti racists generally face alienation from and risk ostracism by other whites if they are actively protest racist performances. While this obstacle may seem insurmountable, the authors tender a historical cautionary about the demise of civilizations that are inspired by the all too familiar ad absurdum dialectics imbued with superiority theories. Quote, the emphasis that Norse colonists placed on their supposed civilizational superiority over indigenous peoples likely contributed very significantly to the ultimate end of them and their Greenland society. Such a disappearance, and there are many such societal collapses in human history, provides a lesson for the United States. This particular North American society, created initially by European colonists in the 1600s, has so far existed a shorter time than did the long vanished Norse society. U.S. society, too, is substantially dominated by people, in this case also European Americans, who have too often been unwilling to treat well, listen to, and value the views of people from different cultures and backgrounds. The ethnocentrism and racism that U.S. whites, including political, economic, education, and religious leaders, frequently engage in will likely contribute sooner or later to the demise of this superpower society.